Welcome to Fearless Mom. Today is part 2 of our series about discipline. Everybody loves, isn't it a fun topic? It is. Yeah, we get to reflect and see what we've done wrong. We're talking about discipline, and the title of this series is Rinse and Repeat, because we know that it is an ongoing process. And the strategies that we implement, we have to implement over and over and over and over again. But we're talking specifically, as we talk about rinse and repeat, how to implement discipline without drama, with less arguing, even less yelling. And today we're going to dig in about our SWBs, our strong-willed blessings, and how to use our strategies to embrace our responsibility to raise them up while maintaining control of our own emotions and teaching them how to as well. But first, we want to welcome in our online audience. If you are watching or listening, our online moms and dads, we're so glad that technology has connected us today. And you know what? There's probably a mom or two out there who's feeling guilty or overwhelmed. And we want to remind you that you are not alone. There's a group of moms in Austin cheering you on. And we believe in you. And you know what? Our focus today is on what we can do today and tomorrow. So we're going to let yesterday go. We're going to learn from it and move forward. Turn to your neighbor and say, we're going to move forward. We're going to move forward. Let's start by praying. God, we thank you so much for this day. We thank you for your word that gives us direction and guidance and insight. We thank you for mom friends. We thank you for technology that allows us to reach out and connect to so many moms. We ask right now, God, that you settle our hearts and our minds and open our eyes and ears so that we can see and hear what you want us to learn today so that we can be the moms we're created to be, to raise up these kids to discover who you've created them to be. In Jesus' name. And everybody said, Amen. Amen. Now, I don't know when you online moms are watching and listening, but today in Austin, as we record, it is February 12th. And February 12th is just before what holiday, everybody? What holiday's coming up? Valentine's. So obviously it gives me an opportunity to show one of my very favorite videos of Emily and Joseph. So I'm going to move out of the way and I'm going to let y'all watch it right here.
Will you be my Valentine? If you will, you surely know how happy I shall be. Sugar, spice, and all things nice, that's what you offer me. Will you be my Valentine? Happy Valentine's Day, Joseph!
Oh, my word. It just captures the two of them so beautifully. It says so much. There are a few things that you guys may have missed. Number one, Emily is wearing her bridal gown, which she always put on right after school every day because you really never know when Prince Charming may come knocking. And so she was always prepared. You may also have noticed her finger point. Joseph was obviously right off camera. And then as she was singing through her gritted teeth, yeah, I would love to think that that's genetic, but it's very probable that that was modeled for her. And the finger point, the stern look, the eyebrows, the whole thing. You can see exactly how I parented my children when you watch this video. And then you also may not have noticed Joe in his Power Ranger underwear and t-shirt, which was his after-school attire. And that bow and arrow that he has is actually the veil that goes with the bridal gown, you know. It just says so much about them. Emily was born into this world in charge. When she was in the nursery, literally in the hospital, the only newborn with her eyes wide open. Everyone else is either sleeping or crying. Emily's eyes are open and she's assessing everybody around her and thinking, okay, how am I going to get out of this place when I need to? And her eyes were dark and she had fair skin and she just had a glare about her. It was amazing. She was born that way. And then we have Joe, who was so easygoing. He literally slept the entire first 6 months of his life. I had tiny windows of time to get to Target, tiny windows. I would have the car packed. He would wake up. I would drive there, would feed him in the car, get in. By the time we got to checkout, he'd already be screaming, and he was ready to get home and get to sleep. Emily hated sleep. Joseph loved sleep. I had to teach Emily to, how to navigate sharing with others. I had to teach Joseph more like, you don't have to give her everything, And so, but it's amazing. Emily, she was talking, very early. She hit all of her milestones on time, if not early. Joe, literally, bless him. There was no milestone that he was eager to hit, He got there, but he got there in his time. And they both got to school. They did well in school, but they are so different. It's amazing God's sense of humor, how he puts these children in our home, and they are born that way. And then, as I said before, it's very possible that Emily was imitating some things that she had seen before. So they're born that way, but they also learn a lot too. But then it's our responsibility as moms and dads to learn our children and to figure out the best way to teach and train them. And I had to implement some strategies. The basics were the same, but then I had to make them fit with these two very different children. And sometimes a strategy that worked great in one season with one child, it didn't work in the next season. And so you were always coming up with new strategies, always looking and saying, can I get better at this? Most moms, I'm going to venture to say almost every mom, is either frustrated that what she's doing is not working or fearful that what she's doing is wrong. But we want to remind you that we're all in this together and that there's no such thing as a perfect mom. There's no such thing as a perfect strategy. There's a strategy. There are some ground rules that we're going to talk about, and then you use God's wisdom, God's discernment, God's common sense to apply them in your context. And so I want to get started by talking about that responsibility that we're going to embrace. Because if you go back to the series that we did about parenting posture, I'm going to go forward today assuming that we are all on the same page, that we're embracing the responsibility of authority in our home. Not permissive, not authoritarian, but authoritative. I'm going to move forward assuming that we're all on the same page there. And if you haven't already, go back and check out that series on parenting posture because it's going to be super important as we move forward. And so that responsibility that we have, let's look at it in Proverbs 22:6. Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should what? The way he should go. Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. Train up a child in the way he should go. That is our responsibility, to train, to teach, to direct, and correct, so that they are ready to what? So that they're ready to go. It's about teaching and training and preparing for adulthood. So we have to have that perspective in mind. Teaching and training. What is our definition of discipline? Teaching and training children to become resilient, competent, independent, what? Adults, guys. Adult is the end game. And some of you may have special needs kids and you go, I don't know what competent and independent looks like. I don't know, that's different for my child. You know what? It's your responsibility to stay in close contact with your pediatrician, your teachers, your counselors, and get input from them so that you are moving toward as independent, as competent, as resilient as possible. But every parent has that responsibility. It's my job, Mac's job, to figure out how that discipline works with each of our children, because it does look very different. They need discipline about different things. They need teaching and training about different things. And then they respond to teaching and training differently. So it's my job to figure it out and to go back to our basics of discipline, that discipline simplified. You've seen it on our social media. We looked at it earlier in this series, where you establish the desired behavior, the acceptable behavior. Then, second, you articulate emulate and model it, and then you respond, you watch for it, and you respond with either a positive consequence or a negative consequence. And then point 5, as always, rinse and repeat over and over and over and over and over. And you're thinking, but surely they've got it by now. Maybe if you're lucky, but maybe you have to go over and over and over and over. And if you have an SWB, you can just say over for the next hour, okay? But you just stay at it. It's about understanding that discipline is not just punishment. There are 2 kinds of consequences, positive and negative. And so if you find yourself saying, I'm always saying no, then I want you to be on the lookout for opportunities to say good job. Good job. Oh my word, you are breathing great. You are amazing. You are so good. You are really working at blank. I can see that you've really tried to blank. Look for the positive if you feel like you live in the negative quite a bit. If you feel like you live in the negative quite a bit, you may be in a season where that's just going to be necessary for a little while. And so make sure that you are taking care of yourself so that you have the stamina for that over and over and over and over again. Particularly, I mentioned earlier, those SWBs. And that's what we called strong-willed blessings. Strong-willed blessings. And what does strong-willed mean? I think it's interesting when you look in the dictionary for strong-willed. The dictionary's definition says this: strong-willed, very determined to do something, even if other people say it should not be done. Very determined to do something, even if other people say it should not be done. I kind of like that definition, the first part, very determined to do something. But even if people say it should not be done, makes it sound like strong will is only disobedient. And it's only when they shouldn't be doing something. But I believe with everything in me that we can use a child's strong will, that we can use, if we are strong-willed, which, hello, I am, I can use that for good or bad. A strong-willed blessing needs to be taught that that strength is a blessing. It is an advantage. They just have to learn how to use it. And so it is my responsibility as mom. I do not want to change her strength. I want to channel her strength. I don't want her to lose her strength. It's my job to teach her how to use her strength. Another way of saying strong-willed blessing, and I say the blessing on the end because sometimes when we're in the middle of teaching and training that strong-willed blessing, it feels more like a curse. But I have to remember this strength is good. And so another way of looking at it, you may have a fiery child. A fiery child. A strong-willed blessing may also be called a fiery child because when you look at fire is good. It brings comfort. I turned on my fireplace, and yes, no, I didn't build a fire. I push a button, and I turned on my fireplace this morning when I had my coffee. A fire, Mac loves to grill. He loves to grill over an open flame, and we love, a fire brings comfort. A fire is useful, but a fire can also be destructive without boundaries, without some intent. And so what we want to do is see this child's fiery spirit, to see this strong will as a fire that we have the opportunity, the responsibility to teach boundaries and to teach them how to use it for good. So you don't want to change your child, but you may want to change how you think about your child. You may want to say, you know what? I thought this was something I needed to discipline out of him. I thought this was something he would grow out of. My prayer is that Emily never grows out of her strong will. I need her. I want her to have a strong will. Again, you're not going to discipline so that that will goes anywhere. I need her to have it. That strong will is what looks a boy in the eye and says, I said, get away, or I'll punch you in the throat. It is the same thing that when it was a thing, a trend, that boys were taking girls' iPads and putting, inappropriate pictures on them at school, in middle school and high school. And Emily looked at a boy and she said, I said, don't do it. And he did it again. And she said, and she told his friend, this was in high school, you tell him that I know that he's 18 years old and I will make sure that this goes on his record if he does it to me again. Yeah, and she would come home and go, I cannot believe girls are not saying anything to them. And I don't want her strength is an advantage. It's a good thing. It was a challenge. It took a lot of strategy and patience and persistence. But again, I never want her to lose it. But she needs to learn how to use it. I don't want to change her. But I wanted her to channel that, and that is super important. It's also important, not only as we're teaching these kids how to use that fire for good, how to use that strength for good, it's important how I talk to Emily, and it was when she was younger. It may be just as, or even more important, how I talk about her to other people. How she hears me talk about her, how I am talking about her, and it's always negative. I would catch myself sometimes think, I wanted to let her teacher know, like, I know that she's a handful. I know she's fiery. So I would go in and go, I'm sorry. And I would start apologizing for her. And then as she got older, I thought, why did I do that? I was making it about me. I wanted the teachers to know. I wanted my neighbors to know. I wanted, the other moms to know that I'm working on it. That I know that she has, she thinks she's an adult. And so I wanted that, but that was making it about me. I remember switching gears and going, you know what she needs from me? She needs the teaching and training. She needs me to be in control of my emotions when I talk to her. She also needs me to speak life into her and life about her. And so I thought, you know what, from now on, I pray, God, please help me to see when Joe is at fault and I need to teach and train and direct and correct. Help me to see truth when Emily needs teaching and training and direction and correction. But let me be the one who's their biggest cheerleader. Let me be the one who speaks positively about them. I will say, I had a couple of friends, Emily's babysitter, Ashley, who knew, and who loved her as much as, I did, or almost as much, loves her almost as much as I did, loves Joe almost as much as I do, and then, or another friend. And so I would talk to them, and they would laugh with me, and they would say, you know what, yeah, man, I cannot wait to see how God uses that. But they were always encouraging. Be aware of the people that you are talking to about your child, because it's super important. I'm going to talk about a little trend, and I know that there are people listening or people in this room who are going to think, she's talking about me. I did that. Well, odds are you probably did, because it's a trend right now. And so that's why I'm talking about it. I did not have social media when Emily was little. And would it be hilarious for me to show you her tantrum outside Barton Creek Hotel when she didn't want to go into time, didn't sit out her 5 minutes, and I had to threaten to call security and all of that? I don't know if you've heard that story. It's a beauty. But would it be great if I had video of it? Yeah, we didn't have access to all that. But I'm kind of glad in a way that I didn't, because this is what could have happened. My responsibility is to articulate the desired behavior, then to model it for her, and then to be on the lookout. Is it exhibited? Had I had a camera with me and she was misbehaving or experiencing undesirable or unacceptable behavior, my temptation would have been, pull it out, videoing it, because listen, you guys would not have believed the tantrums. And I know you're thinking, my child throws a tantrum. I go, honey, your child is a marshmallow compared to the tantrums that we had in public every time. Not sometimes, like often, almost every time. And so I didn't have that. I wasn't tempted to post it. There are accounts and hashtags that you can use about the tantrums that your child is throwing in, and you put it on social media, and people laugh about it and give you feedback. I saw one not long ago, and I've seen many, actually, and so it's not just one. And I saw, and this child had obviously said something sassy in the car, and so the mom then pulled out her phone, turned it on the child, and said, I know, I couldn't see her, guaranteed this was her face. What did you say to mommy? What did you say? What did you, and so then the child starts smiling. Okay, remember I told you there are two kinds of consequences. Negative, and what's the other one? Consequence simply means what follows. It means a result of. So now a child is being sassy, a child is being disrespectful. I've whipped around, I've taken out my camera and I'm smiling, or even if I'm mad and I'm taking out my camera, I'm going to show daddy exactly how this is going. And I've now given not a negative consequence, but a positive. It works against everything you're trying to do. And especially if you have an SWB. You have taken, one step forward, two steps back. SWB, one step forward, 38 steps back. And everything that you put in now has been, we must be careful. Again, I didn't have that. I've seen videos of moms, their kids coloring on the wall, and they're going, what are you doing? You know you're not supposed to be doing that. Stop that. Stop that now. Stop it. Is that negative? No. Is it positive? It's just be aware. All I'm saying is be aware. Now listen, I tell y'all story after story after story about Emily and her imaginary husband Michael and their tumultuous marriage, and then their children Casey, David, and Cavid, and they had they at one point on the brink of divorce. I mean, it was bad when she was 4, and so I tell y'all those stories because Emily's 25. And because now, I've told you the story about her being in that little boutique store and her yelling at me. I'd prepared her before. Emily, we're getting shoes for Easter. You're not going to like them, but you're going to need to wear some white sandals. And we get in there, and boy, she starts yelling at me. Michael doesn't like white sandals. Yeah. I say that now because she's 25. I couldn't laugh about that story in front of her until we were way past it. Now, did I go home? First, I had a snack. And then call my friend? Yes, but not within earshot of Emily. Not within earshot. I needed her to know that that was unacceptable and that we were not going to do that again because I'm not sure Mommy can handle it. But does that make sense? You see the difference? And so, yeah, man, I say you document the heck out of those things because they will be funny in time. They will be funny in time. Your child needs you to be a cheerleader and to post positive things. That's what I would say. And again, did I tell people? Yes, but again, not within earshot. I just think we undermine and we undo a lot of the work that we're doing. So I want to get now back to the keys of fearless discipline that we talked about last week. The keys to fearless discipline. And those are our 5. Clarity, brevity, tone, empathy, and consistency. Clarity, state your expectation. Doesn't need a whole monologue. State it. It's brief, brevity. And then tone. Your tone matters. Take the emotion out of your tone. Whoa, that's easier said than done, isn't it? That's when we do our deep breathing, and that's when we're just being as intentional as we possibly can. Then 4, empathy. Empathy is not excusing. It's saying, I understand or I see that you're upset, but that behavior is not okay. You're giving empathy. You're not going, I told you. Now, this is what happened because you didn't do what I told you to do yesterday. In your face, I'm always right, And I would love to say that I have never done that, but glad y'all think that's funny because my children are probably in therapy because of it. So, and then number 5, consistency. So clarity, brevity, tone, empathy, consistency. Consistency is just that rinse and repeat over and over and over again. And then you've heard me talk about the key word for an SWB is more. More. They are more intense. There is more volume. There are typically more words, more feelings, more of everything, And remember, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Now, you know what I think is interesting? The more I've studied over the years and the more I've looked at my children as they grow up, I thought, Emily being the louder and the more obvious emoter and the more apparent, large and in charge, I would focus my energies on that. Well, do you know that the more I've studied and the more I've watched my children, my Joe, who came out of the womb compliant and laid back, every day is a good day for Joe. It is a joke in our house. We will say, good news, I checked on Joe, he's doing okay. He had a great day today. It's always a great day for Joe. And so I thought, wow, this takes some serious, intentional parenting. But you know what I've discovered? That this guy over here, he is compliant. He is pleasant. He is go with the flow. He gets along with everybody. It's just been so easy. School was easy. Friends were easy. This guy is a feeler and a thinker. And I wasn't aware. And so while I was thinking of how to channel this and and we're going to talk about that. That's going to be a whole nother lesson on if you have that easygoing compliant. Boy, you have to be intentional. You're just being intentional about different things. With Emily, I needed to teach her, the boundaries for her fire and how to use it for good. With Joe, I had to say, hey, buddy, that fire inside of you, let's get it out. Let's get it out and teach you how to use that for good. With her fire, I'm like, don't burn down the neighborhood. With his fire, I'm like, it's okay. It's good. It's purposeful. It's useful. Both my kids have fire. It just looks different. And so you're thinking, well, your kid's probably somewhere in there. And so, well, I don't know if I have an SWB. I don't know if I have an EGC as our easygoing compliant. It doesn't really matter. Your strategies are the same. It's just that the reason I teach on the SWB and the EGC is because there's a mom out there who's read all the books, who's read all the blogs, and who's doing it. And those books say, you put her in that bed and let her cry herself to sleep 3 nights, and then she'll learn and she'll never do it again. 3 years. 3 years, people. And you walk out of that grocery store one time. I remember somebody telling me that. You won't have to do it again. Are you joking me right now? Like every other time. TJ Maxx, I remember, she starts pitching a fit. I pinched her arm, not a hard pinch, just to get her attention. I really just grabbed her. She was good. Academy Award right here. Flails on the ground. You hurt me. You hurt my arm. All eyes, look at me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, the stories, I could go on of Joe just waddling behind, And I'm thinking, wow. And I teach about SWBs to encourage you that it may not need a new strategy. It may just need more persistence, and that word more, you may just need to stick at it. And don't be worried when the strategy that appears to work for every other child in the class doesn't work for yours. We're so grateful that God created each of us unique. And we all come into the world with strengths and weaknesses and abilities and gifts and talents and struggles. And that's okay. You celebrate the child you're given, and it's your responsibility to figure out what works for that child. It's not your responsibility to convince the other mothers of the class that you're a great mom. It's your responsibility to mom that child. And that's when you have an SWB more, it also takes more humility. A lot more humility because, my degree is special education. My emphasis is behavior management. And I've taught every type of child in the world. And then I had zero control over my own, it appeared. And so, but I just kept at it. I mean, what's the secret? Just don't quit. Just don't quit. Just embrace authority and don't quit. So the keys to fearless discipline with SWBs, more. Everybody say more. More clarity, more brevity, more tone. When I say more tone, listen carefully. I do not mean increased tone. I mean more awareness of your tone. So let's look at more clarity. With an SWB, they are great negotiators. I used to say about Emily, she's either going to need or be a great defense attorney. And so she can negotiate, man. She is good. She is good. It's a gift. But I couldn't fall prey to it. And so I would say, this is what I said. I had to embrace that role of authority. Say what I wanted her to do, move on. And then because if I wasn't careful, if I weren't intentional, then my emotions would get into it, my volume would get into it, my passion would get into it. So more clarity. You state those expectations. And part of this clarity is follow through. And SWB needs more structure. And so that follow through is twice as important, 10 times as important. Don't give hollow threats. You just state it. You know what, if you pitch a fit, we're going to have to leave early. And so, boom, she pitched a fit. I don't have to react to it. I don't even have to talk about it. I've already said what would happen. Get her in the car and go. And that's it. So, brevity and clarity. Brevity, brevity. Don't get into a debate with an SWB when they're in an amygdala moment or you're in an amygdala moment. That is not productive. You talk about it later when everybody's calm. Clarity, more brevity, more tone. No, not more volume. Increased awareness of tone. When Emily was in the store and Michael, her imaginary husband, was very passionate about the color of shoes that she was choosing, she yelled at me. The appropriate response would have been, get in the car now. That's not what I did. I whipped around and I said, Michael doesn't make decisions in our family. To which the young lady who was helping us said, who is Michael? Then I had to say, her imaginary husband. Yeah, it was a low moment for me. But you see, so I have to remain the adult. I have to be in charge of my emotions. I have to check my mood before I can correct her mood. I have to check my emotion before I correct her emotion. And so it's super important that I'm sleeping, I'm eating right, and if I'm tired, then I'm on high alert of myself because I'm going to match her and she's going to match me. And guess what? I've learned over the years she's probably going to win. So, and then the next one. So we've got brevity, watch your tone, more empathy. An SWB needs and wants to feel understood. And so, don't do what I did. This lesson is so many opportunities for me to use my mistakes for good. If you have a little one who cries and pitches a fit because the car seat strap is twisted, or because, her triangles of her sandwich are asymmetrical, or whatever it is, and you're like, are you joking me right now? Is this a joke? Because that definitely should not bother you. Well, the fact is it bothers them. And so what I can do is say this. I can see that car seat bothers you. I'm not going to change it right now because we're in a hurry. But if you can hang on, all I've done is understood it. And I've shown empathy instead of going, well, that's stupid, get over it. When in my head I'm really thinking, that's stupid, get over it. I can say, I can tell that bothers you, and I'm sorry. I know that there's some things that bother me, and when I can't do anything about it, it's very frustrating. But we're going to get to it, And so then guess what? I've shown the empathy, and I've given her an opportunity to use self-control. I've identified that angst. She can name it, and then she can say, oh, I have it, and that's okay. Because then when she gets older and she has angst about something that seems to be ridiculous to everyone around her, she can say, oh, okay, this angst is because I like things a certain way, and I can live with it being different than what I expect. Does that make sense? And so empathy is huge for an SWB. And then, but we respond without emotion, but with empathy. And then consistency. I can't say it enough. Just keep at it over and over and over again, because those strong-willed blessings are always looking for an angle. And so so you get to a point where your kids are old enough, you go, good try. Good, that was good. I almost missed that. Good job. Good try, but I'm in charge and no. And so, but you see what they're doing and help them to see what they're doing. It will help them in their marriage later down the road. So the verse for the consistency, every SWB should have this written on multiple note cards around every room. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not, what? Don't give up, guys. Stay at it. Stay at it. Are you embracing your role as authority? Are you giving a negative consequence? Then keep doing it. Keep doing it. Well, when will it get better? I'm not real sure. You just keep doing it. Every child is different. Every child, you know what? You'll get to a season where you're like, oh, I'm so glad we're past that. Heads up, it may come back. And so, but you just keep at it. It's about consistency. I think another one with an SWB, when we talk about consistency, is and maybe you have a child like this who doesn't respond well to change. I don't notice change all the time. So sometimes it bothers me and sometimes it doesn't. And just because change may not be a big deal to me doesn't mean it's not a big deal to my child. And if she says, this is bothering me, empathy says, oh man, I'm so sorry. Now, I can say to her, don't let it bother you. It's already bothering her. I can say to him, don't get worked up about that. He's already worked up about that. Instead, I'm going to say, I can see that really bothers you. I can see that makes you upset. Now, what are you going to do about it? We don't want shame attached to the feeling. The feeling's a feeling. The feeling's there. But what I do want, I want to help them catch it, name it, and then strap it in the back seat where it belongs. It doesn't drive their decisions, nor does it go in the trunk, ignoring it. I want them to be able to name their feelings. There's no shame in any feeling. You catch it, name it, strap it in, and go, okay, I see that bothers me. Does that make sense? We got to teach them, we got to arm them. No shame in those feelings, especially if you have deep feelers. I have 2 deep feelers, and I am not a deep feeler. As a matter of fact, my children may tell you I have no feelings. And my husband is a deep feeler. I feel deeply about 3 things. Like Chick-fil-A, my kids, and you should only eat catfish in the South, I feel strongly about random things. My children both feel strongly about, Joe probably not as much. Emily feels strongly about stuff that does not even pertain to her, but she feels strongly about all the things. Joe feels very strongly about some of the things. In other words, I got to teach both of them how to handle that. So whichever end your child is on, everybody has that. Now, a few things before we end, what your SWB needs. If you have an SWB, the truth is it works for every child. But I think an SWB parent needs to really make sure you're implementing these in your day. Choice. An SWB, most children, everybody is born with a predisposition toward self-promotion and self-preservation. Everybody. It's just that some kind of back down from it a little more readily than others. So an SWB is always fighting for that control, always looking for that control. The truth is, when an SWB, a child, is fighting for control, if they're given control, they feel out of control. I'm going to say that again. If an SWB is fighting for control, if you give them total control, they then feel out of control. They want you to be the parent. They want you to be authoritative. They need you to be in charge. They also benefit from choice. I'm in charge of bedtime. I determine when my kids go to bed. I may give them a choice. Hey guys, you know what? We don't have to be up in the morning. Do you guys want to go to bed at 8 or 8:30? They pick the time. And so now I've given a choice. It's not a declaration. It's not a command. Sometimes it's a command. But what I try to do is go, I've been giving a lot of commands. I'm going to work in some choice. You know what? My decision about bedtime. Which 2 books do you want to read? You know what? We've got extra time. Do you want to do 2 or 3? I've given choice. Be careful. If you have a good SWB, you say, you want to read this book or this book? They'll go, I want to do this one over here. And sometimes that may be fine. Just notice if it's a pattern because they're looking for that control. Emily was real good at that. I go, put that in my hand. She'd walk up to me, look me in the eye, put it on the table right in front of me. I knew exactly what she was doing. So with her, one time, okay. But then I'm like, hey, whoa, she's trying to gain control here. She feels better if I actually have control. She's going to benefit from that. She's learning where her boundaries for her fire are. And I need to give her those. So choice is big. Challenges. Create opportunities for your child to be independent. Think of something they can do independently. And by the way, dressing themselves is a great one. Get over looking cute all the time. If you care about that, get a sweatshirt for your dog. But get over it with your child. Emily would tie yarn in her hair, and she thought that was a fabulous look because she was different from everybody else. She loved that. She got stylish, tall black boots when she was in kindergarten. It was a thing. Everybody had the Target boots. And so she realized if she wore them with jeans, nobody could see them. So she wore capris. So cute, so cute. And yarn and a choker, this is a challenge, and you may be able to do it, you may not too. I let my kids pick their school picture day outfit. Or I would put them in their favorite outfit. I have the best documentation of their sense of style. I mean, Joe's pretty much wearing a jersey, every school picture. Emily one year has a choker on with this, velour butterfly shirt with flame, sleeves. And it's so great. Now, if you can manage that, go ahead and let that go. But let them be as independent as possible. It really create opportunities. We live in a day and age where kids can't go off and ride their bikes and make decisions on their own and make mistakes. So then you go, well, we can't do that, bummer, or we can't do it like that, but maybe I can do it this way. And so I would go to the food court and give each of my kids money, let them go, stand in line, order for themselves, create opportunities for independence because they feed on that challenge and they feed on that competence. Trust. Trust is huge. Trust is huge because an SWB needs to feel understood. So connect at every opportunity possible. Games are big. Listening, and then listening some more, and listening even more. Our kids, I got tired of tucking them in, so they tucked us in every night when they were middle school, high school. So, and their friends, all the kids are totally accustomed to coming in our bedroom and sitting on the foot of our bed. And it's so funny when a kid would come over for the first time, an 18-year-old boy and be like, why are we sitting in the bedroom? This is weird, But they would come in and tell us about their day, and that was a great time. We talked about everything about their day, the kids' friends, everybody did it. And so we got a new bed a couple of years ago, and it has a footboard. And Emily came in, literally, y'all, this was last month. She's 25. And she started to talk to Mac and me at bedtime, probably over the holidays because the kids were spending the night. And she goes, y'all know this is barbed wire in my soul. This is barbed wire to my soul. This is barbed wire to my soul. I said, we know. And so we joked like we did it on purpose. But I did put a chair in there for her. But it's not the same as sitting on our bed. So create those opportunities to listen and listen some more and listen. With an SWB, watch out. Because, I just need to say one more thing. Or I just need to say one more thing. And so sometimes when you go back to that clarity and brevity and you go, there's no sentence that's going to come out of my mouth that's going to make you understand. And there's no sentence that's going to come out of your mouth that's going to make me change my mind. I love you, and I can't wait to hear about that at breakfast tomorrow. And then end it. So listen, but be on high alert. And then self-control. So they need self-control. They need choices, they need challenges, they need trust, and they need self-control. And you have to work really hard at it. We must teach them that they are not a victim of or slave to their emotions, that their fiery spirit is great. It is a blessing. Wow, you've got a huge responsibility to use this for good. When you see them use their strength for good, if it's in a game and they're super passionate and they play to the end, you see, that's that tenacity. That's that stubbornness is a good thing. When it's on the court or on the field or, finishing that project or saying no when everybody else is saying yes, we need to teach them to see that strength and to use that strength. And so developing self-control is huge. So I would encourage you, if you have a fiery kid and especially a super emotional or passionate one with lots of feelings, go back and listen to that series or watch that series, Emote Control. We've also got another one on It's Not That Complicated about discipline. And we really just break it down. But the bottom line when it comes to SWBs is they have to learn, just like every child has to learn, that I've got to live within the boundaries that are set by God, by my parents. And we get to arm them to do that. We get to put them in school where they learn another authority of the teacher, the principal. Put them on teams where they learn to work with another authority, a coach or, an umpire. It's a wonderful thing. And when I say that SWBs need to be understood, it's okay for them to learn that sometimes they're misunderstood. And so when we talk about that self-control and understanding their emotions and understanding it, it's a lifelong process. You never I don't know an adult who has total harness on their feelings. But with our SWBs, we go, man, you're a fiery one. And that's amazing. But just like any other trait, it's all dependent on context and degree. So we want to make sure you're using that strength and that determination for good. And they go, I can't help it. Yes, you can. And this is a great memory verse for SWBs, Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. God gave you that passion. He's going to help you harness that passion. God gave you that determination. He's going to help you harness that determination. God gave you that intensity. He's going to help you harness that intensity and use it for good. And so when we talk about moms, last week we talked about how we breathe in, our 8-count breathing, and we go breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 6, 7, 8, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. With kids, they can do a breathing hand. And we do like this. And it's tactile, so it's good for a lot of these kiddos. They breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. And do it slow. If they're doing this, yeah, it's not very effective, okay? So what we're doing is we're telling our brain, I'm not in danger and I'm not hurt. I can tell my brain that I'm okay and that I'm wise enough, and God will help me make this decision, and God will help me do the right thing. And so they trace their hands. And then we have take a breath, take a break, watch your tone, watch your face. Well, I was born that way. I can't help it. Yes, you can. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Breathe, take a breath, take a break, watch your tone, watch your face. You're not a victim of or a slave to your emotions. Those emotions are a gift. They're a blessing. It's how you use them that matters. Moms of SWBs need more patience, more persistence, and more perspective. More patience, just keep at it and evaluate your own mood and your own emotion. More persistence, it's not working. You don't know yet. Keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. And then perspective. You have to remember, moms, discipline is more about shaping a child's heart than fixing a child's behavior. For an SWB, it's really important to keep this perspective because they are good and they'll push and push and push, and that's great. That's how we want them to attack their schoolwork. That's how we want them to attack a new skill. That's how we want them to attack their marriage. I'm going to stay at it. It's frustrating, but I'm going to stay at it. We need them to keep that. We need to remember, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. We're going to move into a time of reflection. I love this topic because I think that everyone has an SWB at some point. You may be thinking, well, I'm glad I didn't have a child who threw a tantrum every time I left Target, And I'm like, that may be the case, but looking into your child's soul, and there's something that they push you or they frustrate you, and I'm like, well, maybe, I'll see, Joe is pretty easy, but when I got frustrated with him? When he was a baby. It wasn't even directed at me. And if I think about when I lost my temper with him the most, it was because I'd had a baby that she could stay up and I could go about my business all day. But then I had this other one who needed to sleep all the time. And so he was a baby and scream and cry, and he just wanted to sleep, and I would get so frustrated. And so that frustration comes in so many different seasons. So our reflection time is this. We're going to look at, Mom, what are you doing to take care of yourself, your emotions, your emotional health, your physical health, your spiritual health, your relational health, your financial health? And so I want to set myself up so that I can be the mom my child needs. And so that's what we're going to do during our reflection time today. Our verse, Galatians 6, 4, and 5. We've been using it a lot. It's about embracing your responsibility and not comparing to other people. And that's what we're going to do right now. Look at your own work. And then you're responsible for yourself. And then that sets you up to implement the strategies to help your child. So as we move into our reflection time, I want you to ask yourself, what do I need to do to fill my tanks this week. Maybe before you get there, you need to say, hey, how are my tanks? Let me assess it. And then I need to think, how do I talk to my child and about my child? My words matter, my tone matters, my facial expressions matter. And maybe for the next minute, you just want to breathe and do some 8-count breathing so that you can go into the rest of your day ready and armed to not just embrace the responsibility of motherhood, but to enjoy the responsibility of motherhood. Let's pray. God, I thank you so much for this day. I thank you, God, for your word that gives us direction and encouragement. I thank you for the reminder in Galatians that you want us to look at our own work, our own responsibility, and then we're ready to help our kids. I ask right now, God, that you settle hearts and minds, that you assure these moms that today is a new day, tomorrow is bright, and you can use even our mistakes for your glory and our good and our kids' good. Thank you, God, for that assurance. In Jesus' name, amen.